Andy Ballard, Danny Halliwell, Marcus St Hilaire, Lee Greenwood, Neil Roden and James Coyle. In the forwards, Richard Merville, Gary Sykes, Jason Bolts, David Allen, Chris Baines and Rob Roberts, who captains the side. And on the bench, Paul Heighton, Tommy Goulden, Craig Robinson and Phil Joseph, and the coach is Tony Benson. Now, plenty of speculation that Iestyn Harris would make a miraculous recovery to play for Featherstone Rovers this evening. It hasn't happened. Ian Hardman is at full-back, and it's Tom Saxton, Tom Hockey, Andy Kirk, John Steele, Kyle Briggs and Andy Kane. And in the forwards, John Fallon, Joe McLaughlin, Stuart Dickens, who captains the side, Matty Dale, who returns in the second row to partner Tim Spears, and Jamie Field at loose forward. And on the bench, Wayne Price is back, so is Tony Tonks, and they join Jack Lee and Joe Hurst on the bench for the coach, Darryl Powell. So this will not feature that man, Iestyn Harris, who was desperate to play against his hometown club, Oldham, but the torn bicep hasn't recovered. Thankfully, it's not as serious as first feared. It's certainly not a case of him being out for the remainder of the season, but not able to come back quite so soon this evening for this game, which pitches the side from the Championship against the side from Championship 1. And the two sides taking the field here at Leigh Sports Village on a beautiful sunny evening, and the conditions really are absolutely perfect. They cannot complain about the pitch that they will be playing on, because it is in immaculate condition, and Featherstone Rovers certainly will start off as favourites this evening by virtue of the fact that they are in the Championship, in the top 6 in the Championship, and surely too good for Oldham this evening, Phil.
Well, Featherstone provided an entertaining encounter last week, and yet one looks at this the Oldham squad, and you see the talent on show, and I suspect we're going to get just as much excitement in this game here today. So much experience amongst the Oldham players who know how to get up for big games, and the sudden death element of this cup match will certainly bring the best out of the Oldham squad. Yes,
you're talking about the likes of Paul Riley, Marcus St Hilaire, Paul Heighton and Rob Roberts, who have been around. Gareth Hewer, the referee this evening. So, Terry, there's bags of experience for the Ruffians.
They've actually got 9 lads that have played in Super League, the likes of Dave Allen as well, Phil Joseph on the bench for the Oldham side. I just think this is going to be a real big game. A lot of these Oldham players would have watched the way Featherstone performed last week, and they know that what they've got to do, they've got to get the ball behind them and challenge the big forwards to bring that ball back.
Kyle Briggs then gets us underway. First touch of the ball for Oldham, and almost went without it. And good support here for Oldham this evening, and they have lost that ball. Play on, says referee Gareth Hewer. Featherstone have it, and so an early error for Oldham, and the Oldham fans have taken advantage of the free transport that's been laid on by the club.
Well, Jason Bolts never looked comfortable. It wasn't an accurate pass to help him, and all of a sudden his team now are on their own goal line and defending for their lives.
Here's Jamie Field, who had an outstanding game against Leigh last week in that victory that consolidated Featherstone Rovers' place in the top 6 in the table. Here's Kane darting across the field, almost finding a gap in the Oldham defence, so alarm bells ringing already for the Oldham team as Featherstone put the pressure on, and Jamie Field will take him on again. Field has lost the ball though. Paul Riley snaps it up, and relief for Oldham then from the early pressure they found themselves under. And they'll be looking to just make sure they hang on to this one, and Rob Roberts will certainly do that.
Well, Oldham started poor last week. Too many errors, particularly with their skill factor. Again, a handling error in collision. But here's the first one, a poor pass there from Riley to Bolts. He juggles it and then loses it amongst all the attention. Dickens was the man who came up with it. And it's Leigh's turn now to try and clear their own zone.
Chris Baines then, inside his own 40 for this Oldham side. And Coyle will put boot to ball. Gets good distance on that, but there to field it for Featherstone Rovers is the hero of last Thursday's victory. Ian Hardman scored that late try that got them the win against Leigh when it was locked at 24 points all.
And you think for Oldham to go on to win this game, this is the part of the pitch where they've got to defend, they've got to come up, they've got to be defensively strong and try and hunt for them errors. The likes of Dave Allen playing on the right hand side, number 11 for this Oldham side. He is the real go-to man, and he's very dominant in defence.
Tom Saxton playing the ball, man of the match last week. And then John Steele. Steele plays the ball just inside his own half. McLaughlin, good work from the hooker. And they're up to the 40-metre line of Featherstone. As Spears plays the ball, play on, said the referee. Fallon, well, he was like a slip fielder there. As that ball went down by his toes, he just managed to get his hands underneath it and keep it off the ground. Did well there. And Riley will watch that one go over the dead ball line.
Well, I'm sure it was Andy Kane's intention for that ball to stay in play. He didn't want it to roll over the dead ball line. It's relieved so much pressure for Oldham now. No longer does Riley have to pick up the ball and run forward. But once you get over that 20-metre line, it's amazing how, you know, how easy it is to go forward. As we see Ballard now run from dummy half and gain 6 or 7 metres before being picked up and pushed back 2.
2 feet off the ground.
So aggression early on from Featherstone Rovers in the defence. Coyle. Halliwell. And here's Riley then, up from the full-back role. He likes to get involved, as Paul Riley, as ever. Good to see him back in action, in fact, because he had a really bad back injury last year, which at one point was threatening his career, but fully recovered from that. And the former Huddersfield Giant, very much in the thick of it for Oldham this evening. Kick downfield. And Hardman goes left, goes right, eventually gets a hold of the ball.
You know, that's a pretty good kick. Now, look how much ground they've gained. They've probably almost made a 50-metre gain from where they kicked the ball to where they've tackled Ian Hardman. Good result for Oldham.
And Hardman, he was eroding on the follow-up, making the tackle. Here's Jamie Field, and then offside whistles Gareth Ewer. First penalty of the game goes the way of the Featherstone Rovers side.
Gareth Ewer's done James Coyle, got off the line too quickly. But that's where they cannot give penalties away down there. 3 tackles, they've been defensively very strong, dominated the ruck and the collision. But now all the field positions with this Featherstone side.
Fallon. His run brought to a halt by the Oldham defenders. Roberts in there. And Richard Merville.
Second movement. We are Neil. Wait then.
Featherstone with Dickens playing the ball. Here's Kane now. Kane, it's a pass that hits the deck. Saxton, though, picks it up. Man of the match last week, Tommy Saxton. Plays the ball on the 20-metre line. Kane across the field. Briggs pops that pass up for Spears, and Spears on one foot. He's hopping towards he's still going. Good work from Tim Spears.
Hands out. Wait. Go.
Briggs now. Kane for Field again, and Field once more trying to bust his way through the line. That's the 5th tackle. He'll play the ball, and they'll go on their own, and they'll get over the try line with McLaughlin. McLaughlin gets the first try of the game, and it was there on a plate for Joe McLaughlin as the Oldham defence just stood back in admiration, and McLaughlin didn't hang around and wait for the opportunity. He darted through to get his 7th try of the season. Ever present this season, Joe McLaughlin, and doing his normal sniping job there, spotting the opportunity.
I'm sure I want to give some credit to his teammates. Spears and Field, their charges really downfield took hold of them and put them on the back foot, and then they certainly overread it on the last player. They expected him to pass and looking for a kick, but he scooted quick to the left-hand side and got himself between 2 players. Excellent start for Featherstone with this amount of ball here. Field takes it through, crashes through Allen's first tackle, gets that quick play of the ball, and McLaughlin is certainly a player with much to offer. You know, we saw what John Sharp did for Danny Kermond when he left Featherstone and showed what a great player and talented guy he is now, stepping up to the Super League level. I just wonder whether Joe McLaughlin is a similar player to watch out for. I'm going to keep a close eye on him tonight to assess the quality of his work in attack and defence. OK, it's all right scoring tries. Let's look at the rest of his game. Pretty good start from the number 16.
Dickens successfully converting that try, and his side ahead by 6 points to 0.
Bill, that's a real soft try, that. Tony Benson will be he'll be disgusted with his plays, because you can never let a hooker. You've got to make sure that ruck is nice and tight and there's people around. You don't give an opportunity to a guy like Joe McLaughlin near the line.
So Featherstone getting the start they wanted, the start they'd been threatening as well. And as Phil said, take your hat off to Tim Spears and then Jamie Field for the dents they made in the Oldham defence.
But as well, they were piggybacked down the pitch because of that penalty. That just goes to show this Oldham side have got to be really disciplined tonight if they want to give themselves a chance of beating Featherstone.
Here's Jamie Field. Well, Oldham can beat championship opposition. They have done that this season already. They beat Widnes 22-20 right at the start of the season at the Stobart Stadium, in fact. That's a good kick, and Ballard herring back just to make sure it wasn't going to be a 40-20, but took a break away from the touchline and then infield to Riley, and Riley across the field, and then he's collared, well collared by Steele, and Steele got a hold of him, and it was the grip of Steele as well. So Featherstone now really looking to capitalise on this start they've made. Baines playing the ball.
Tackle 3, move!
Quick play the ball from Rob Roberts, who was quickly on his feet there. And then it's with Gary Sykes.
10 metres, Tom.
Once to the Swinton Lions, Sykes.
Go.
And they've lost that ball, it's gone backwards. No, it hasn't, said the referee, it's another knock-on.
Well, we've been playing for less than 10 minutes, but there isn't enough speed or urgency amongst the Oldham team in whatever element of the game, whether that's getting back, to be on side with the referee, rushing forward to tackle their opponents, carrying the ball. All of the urgency is in the blue and white jerseys at present, and it's the reason why Featherstone are dominating the match.
Yeah, it's been a slow start from this Oldham side.
Move!
Lying second in the Championship 1 table, behind the 100% record Dewsbury Rams. Here's Briggs. Briggs trying to sell the Oldham defence a dummy. They weren't falling for that. Roden with the tackle. Here's Kane now. Kane. And then Dickens. And Dickens will play the ball about 20 metres out. Andy Kane. Field. Sharp pass back in field for Hardman, but he couldn't get a hold of it. And Ballard can get a hold of it. And he's away. And they won't catch Andy Ballard. Sexton trying, but Ballard will go all the way. Plunks that ball down. And gets the try under the posts, which gives them the opportunity to level the score. So Jamie Field goes from creating a try at one end to being instrumental in setting up that one for Andy Ballard.
Well, I just said that Oldham didn't have enough speed or urgency in the game. That certainly wasn't the case when the ball found the hands of Andy Ballard. The error here is the ball back on the inside, knocked on initially by Hardman, but the Featherstone reaction to that error is poor. They're a second with her, they're waiting for the referee maybe to put a scrum down. Oldham don't wait, they get the ball to possibly their fastest player, and Ali Ballard puts the ball underneath the post. It's a great turnaround. The transition from defence to attack is excellent. Roberts' vision knows that he has to find Ballard. In finding him, clearly, even with the handicap of running with the ball, none of the Featherstone players can still manage to catch him.
That's why he is the top point scorer in the entire championship competition. 232 points. Well, it helps that you're the goal kicker as well. 84 of those so far, make that 85 surely from bang in front of the post. He's got his breath back just, and Oldham have got the score back to level, 6 points apiece.
Bill, they say that defence wins your games, and Danny Halliwell come out the line, he put all kinds of pressure on Jamie Field, who threw the ball inside to Ian Hardman, who lost the ball, but good vision by big Rob Roberts to pick up that ball, see where the gap was and pass it to Andy Ballard, who just had all the speed in the world to warm for that try for Oldham.
So that's a real bonus for this Oldham side, who were under a bit of pressure.
Well, it's the same in rugby union or football and rugby league. Turnovers of possession are probably your greatest chance of scoring, because your opposition aren't even thinking about defence and certainly don't have a line set up to hold any play forward. Great work there now, and it's given Oldham maybe the lift they needed.
So 6 points apiece. And maybe that'll spark Oldham into life, because they'd been a bit flat early on here. It certainly does seem to have sparked Sykes. A little run from the hooker there. And he gets the penalty as well. Dickens, I think, just trying to slow things down. First one for Oldham in the game.
Well, it's amazing. You find one quick play of the ball, a second one follows it. Players then in the defensive side are struggling to cope and concede a penalty. And Oldham now getting close to the Featherstone try line for the first time in this match.
There's Jason Bolts. First carry for this Oldham side. The Featherstone players thinking there might have been a hint of a knock-on there. Richard Merville. Merville then, just outside that Featherstone Rovers 20, plays the ball. Here's Coyle now. Coyle, little step, takes him past the first defender. Tackled though by Fallon. Now Sykes trying to carry it on. Good defence there. And that stopped Chris Baines in his tracks. And Baines driven back. Baines plays the ball on that 10-metre line. And it's Coyle for Roden now. Roden taking on Jamie Field, but Field and Dickens pin him to the ground. He's going nowhere. And a kick, crossfield. Ballard will challenge Saxton for this, and Saxton's knocked that one on. Referee will bring them back, I think. I'm sure that was a Featherstone hand that knocked that ball down. Pretty certain it was Tom Saxton. It looks as though it was, because Oldham have got head and feet at the scrum.
Well, you can see from the angle of the sun, it's probably the most difficult catch Tom Saxton will have to make this evening. He's hoping that that sun sets behind the far stand.
So this is another golden opportunity. Roden loops the ball out for Marcus St-Hilaire. First touch for him. St-Hilaire pops the ball up. Back comes Lee Greenwood. It's Featherstone's turn to defend their line. Coyle now. Coyle for Merville. And they're right, camped on that Featherstone Rovers try line. Coyle, a little dart from him, and still going, James Coyle. Almost escaped the clutches of Fallon there. Here's Roden now. Roden, a ball into space, and they're in with Danny Halliwell. And Roden and Halliwell linking up superbly there. And Danny Halliwell gets his 8th try of the season, but it was served up on a silver platter by Neil Roden. And a great build-up from the Oldham side to that try, testing them right and left, and then it came straight through the middle like a blade.
Well, it's an excellent start. You see here, the penalty's the first thing that gets them in motion. They often come in 2s and 3s. Then there's the error from Saxton to give them the scrum and more possession. And then I think the quality of the passing from Saxton in halfback needs some mention, because it allows Roden and Coyle to get wider, and then with that width, the holes in the defensive line are pretty wide enough here for Halliwell to just run through without a single player touching him. Even if it had been touch and pass, they wouldn't have stopped him from there. Hit the hole, took the ball, and it's all Oldham.
Twice a Northern Rail Cup winner in his career, Danny Halliwell, so he knows all about this competition. And very experienced, of course, from his days with Warrington and Wakefield, with Halifax as well. Ballard with the conversion. And Oldham have gone from a pretty scrappy start, 6-0 down, to lead here by 12 points to 6, the Championship 1 side, looking to emulate Doncaster last year, who got all the way to the final from Championship 1, well, from NL2 as it was then. And Danny Halliwell has helped their cause no end with that try.
That try simply come about James Coyle probing around the middle of the sticks, pulling all the Featherstone players in, and then Neil Roden, all he wants to do is a couple of guys hitting the right holes, and then he'll pick which one's the option. The option on that occasion was Danny Halliwell.
So here's Riley, and that's G'd up those Oldham supporters. There are plenty of them here. As I said, there's free transport laid on by the bus company that does all Oldham's club transport. And plenty of other fans have made the journey. Of course, they can't play on their own Boundary Park pitch. Well, I say their own. They can't play on the Boundary Park pitch until the middle of July, because that's being reseeded. And Rob Roberts on the charge again.
And that's what you want. You want your enforcer to do that. You want your big guy in the middle of the park to lead from the front, and Rob Roberts will take that mantle on every time he plays the pitch.
Coyle's kick is a good one and found a bit of space between Steele and Hardman, and it's Hardman who picks it up, but by the time he does, there's some chasers there for Oldham. Well, the Northern Rail Cup final coming up on Sunday, July the 12th in Blackpool. Sky Sports will be there to bring you live coverage. You can be there as well. The information line 08 444 777 113, or go on to the Rugby Football League's website, the rfl.co.uk. But you've got to get there first. We're at the quarter-final stage. This the first of the quarter-finals this weekend. And here come Featherstone Rovers with Saxton. Trying to swat aside the challenge of Coyle. Coyle trying to get him into touch. Saxton stays in the field of play. Hockey now. Kane puts the kick down the middle of the field. So Oldham, well, they really have got their act together. All the things you were calling for have suddenly materialised. Urgency, organisation.
And some quality. If you think about the kicks that Coyle's put in, the ball's been able to bounce 2 or 3 times before Harden's got to it, and that's assisted his teammates in winning the battle of ground, really.
Riley gets to his feet and plays the ball. Here goes Roberts again. Always a handful is two bobs. Plays that ball on his own 30-metre line. Coyle with the kick. And Hardman scurrying across to field it. Merville leading the chase. And then he's collared by the kicker, Coyle. Here's Steele. Steele plays the ball just inside his own half. Saxton, good offload from him for McLaughlin, the try scorer. McLaughlin trying to find again a hole in this Oldham defensive line. There wasn't one there that time. Here's Briggs. Kyle Briggs, ex-Doncaster, news that Featherstone Rovers have signed another Doncaster player just in the last 24 hours, with Ross Devorty joining them. Great ball for Jamie Field. Field will go on his own, and that was probably the wrong decision. If this doesn't come off on the last tackle, it might yet, because Hockey will surely plunge over and get the ball down. But it could have been a whole lot easier, and it could have been a lot nearer the posts. But in the end, it's Tommy Hockey who gets the ball over the line and crashes down to get his 10th try of the season. But what a great break it was in the first place.
Well, Stuart Dickens, just as Graham does for St Helens, the prop forward runs at the line and then delivers the pass at the very last second. It allowed Field to split through the line, and then almost too many options for support. None that he could find on that play, but he maintained his composure, controlled possession, and on the very next one, they find Tom Hockey, who's too strong to spin over the line from that distance. Good effort there from Featherstone. Nice interplay with the forwards and backs.
Tom Hockey was a try scorer on his last visit here. That was when Featherstone beat Lee in the championship a few weeks ago by 30 points to 16. So on the score sheet at Lee again. This time it's against Oldham. And restored to the centres, Tom Hockey, just looking as though he might need a bit of treatment. He's got a bang as I think he crashed over with that ball. And he's continuing a great scoring run. The conversion attempt from Dickens is wide. Tom Hockey scored tries in 5 of the last 7 games for the Featherstone Rovers side. That's a good effort from him.
But what about the break by Jamie Field? But you've got to look like, why did Jamie Field make that break? Danny Halliwell flew out the line, took the wrong option in defence, left his teammates totally exposed. If he would have kept his line, kept his shape. Look at that, Jamie Field goes through, Danny Halliwell to the right of the screen, just put his teammates under all kinds of pressure, and then to try and stop that try. But good play by Jamie Field. Again, standing up and starting off really strong for the Featherstone side.
12-10 the scoreline then in favour of Oldham. And Rob Roberts has just left the field. Well, that's a strategic change from Tony Benson. We saw Tony Benson a moment ago, obviously coming down to the sidelines and then going back up again. So Roberts is off, Tommy Golden is on.
Nice offload from Saxton onto Kane. And it's the Featherstone side again who are injecting some speed around the ruck.
Here's Spears. Spears a good ball for Briggs, and Briggs now needs some support. He's got Kirk trying to keep tabs on him, but Kirk couldn't get free. Briggs is tackled. That's the third. Kane now. Here's Jamie Field once more. Long pass from Field, and Hockey couldn't take that one. It was dipping down by his toes, and Oldham will gather it up and gladly take the pressure off there. It was Halliwell who eventually dived on the ball.
Well, there has been some excellent passing from Featherstone at times. This isn't one of them, and Hockey can't catch it. They're now guilty of putting their hands on the play of the ball to try and slow the Oldham team down. Chris Baines was the man trying to get up to play the ball. But this is the break here. Nice pass there to Briggs before the line. Again, they're showing the ability of forwards. Passing the ball close to contact is a difficult skill. Looks a lot easier on TV than it is on the field.
So Oldham, with that penalty, up to the 40-metre line in their own half. Phil Joseph is on the field. Another one of these really experienced players that Tony Benson has assembled at the Oldham side, and are challenging strongly in Championship 1. Of course, their target is promotion from that competition. They've got a bit of work to do because the Dewsbury Rams are really setting the pace. 9 from 9 for them so far this season in the competition. But it's the Northern Rail Cup they're concentrating on this evening, and that is quite a juicy prospect for these sides. It's becoming an increasingly juicy one, in fact, over the last few years. A lot more kudos attached to the competition. And we'll see Dewsbury Rams in action next Thursday, in fact, on Sky Sports 3, 7:30, when they take on, I think, the third place Keighley Cougars.
Andy Ballard seemed to punch the ball back inside, and then Andy Kane's lost the ball, but eventually the referee says it was stripped probably after the tackle was completed, is probably my interpretation. Look, Ballard punches it back inside, ends up with Andy Kane, and then Halliwell pulls it off him. That's a little unlucky here, Oldham.
Is that a bit harsh, that? Danny Halliwell goes down, you can see that he's pinched the ball before.
I suppose the tackle is completed when the player's on the floor and can't make any further progress, so...
Hold. Go.
Here's Dickens then.
Second.
Stuart Dickens, who, Terry, you'll be pleased to know, has forgiven me for the comments I made last week about his goal kicking.
And do you know how long he played last week when you were giving him a serve? 75 minutes. And you were sledging him for missing him off the sideline.
Well, I've had a long conversation with Stuart and put him right on various things.
Do you mean you've apologised before you?
No, I just said it was you that said it. We're on the 40-metre line with Featherstone, and Kane puts the kick into the corner, and Paul Riley will come across to field the ball.
It's interesting policy from Featherstone that none of their kicks, when they've been inside Oldham's half of the field, have allowed any of the teammates to contest them. They've all been ones just to gain ground and really put the ball close to around the try line area. None in the none into a midfield zone, which would allow any of the faster Featherstone players to get there and contest for them.
I think they're really quite happy in the conditions, Phil, sticking it into the corner, and as I say, challenge your opposition to bring it out. If it goes into the corner, you can defensively get really tight, and it's not a very nice place to come when you've got to bring the ball out and you've condensed, and there's just a blue condensed line. Where do you go? It's very tough, and that's why Oldham aren't making many yards.
Okay, kicker clear.
Roden's kick, he was inside the 40, but hasn't got the angle on that. The pitch now completely in the shadows. The sun's still pretty strong on the far side of the ground. And Hardman plays the ball. Steele, the dual code international.
A nice return from Ian Hardman. He got himself between the defenders. He played the ball 1 second faster, and all of a sudden the next two runs from the wingers, Steele and Saxton, are easy for them to make the 10 metres. Will they go wider here now later in this set?
Here's Tom Hockey, and Hockey runs into the solid defence of David Allen. Saxton again.
Again, a conservative set, you would say, in possession for Featherstone. Patient approach.
Kane, Briggs, Kirk puts his foot to the floor. But that was on the last, it'll be the turnover. Went for the power play.
Nice option for them. Previously, they've kicked the ball. The two Oldham wingers have dropped back, haven't they, anticipating the kick downfield. But I think you'd have to credit Oldham the way they dealt with that in defence.
Well, Featherstone, Phil, they look really content in just chewing up the yardage, don't they? This is the second play now. They're 12 yards off the line, Oldham. And again, Featherstone really getting off that line and putting them under all kinds of pressure. They cannot give penalties away and relieve the pressure, because Oldham are under pressure. 25 minutes into 26 minutes into the game, and it all seems to be Featherstone the last 10 minutes.
Oldham trying to do something about that now. As Halliwell plays the ball. And it's with Chris Baines, this burly second rower. Gets to his feet, and Joseph puts a very delicate kick in. It was almost a 40-20, almost, just outside, in fact.
What an excellent effort, because Coyle was under pressure. They anticipated that the Oldham team would go that way. It is easy. You've got a hooker who can do that so well from the acting half-back zone.
Welsh international Phil Joseph, another one of the new recruits for this season. But it's Featherstone Rovers in possession. Here's Hardman looking to straighten it up there through the middle. but tackled by Roden and Riley.
You know when you've won that collision, if the two men who've tackled you are still getting up and back in your position, if they're not set at marker, you've done your job.
Here's Tony Tonks, restored to the Featherstone Rovers team this week, missed last week against Lee. And here's Jamie Field. Good hands from Field.
Make it 10 metres, come on. It's good.
Kane. Briggs now. Hardman, looping pass from Hardman, finds John Steele. Steele cuts back in field. That's the 5th tackle. Featherstone Rovers imploring Gareth Hewitt to blow for a penalty. Nothing coming. And that's a kick for Ballard, and Ballard has lost it. It's come up for Featherstone, it's come up for Tony Tonks. Tonks, the offload, Dickens, and Dickens is over. But has he got the ball down?
Okay, Rob, can you check
They could have taken their time about that. Instead, they went hell for leather for the try, and has Stuart Dickens got it?
Well, it's the first time in the match, almost half an hour in, that they've actually contested a kick on the last play. They've been in this part of the field before. They've elected to just take the patient approach. On this time, several of the teammates stay onside, I believe, and get up to contest with Andy Ballard for this ball. Do they do it legally? I think they do. Ballard can't catch it on the first attempt. We wait to see here now as the ball comes down. Do they hit him in the air? Are they going for the ball? I think you might have to say that, is it Matty Dale, maybe, the number 11, the player on the right, hits him. It looks as though Tom Hockey in 14 is going for the ball to me. I'm not so sure, though. If you take another look again at number 11, Matty Dale, no.
No try.
Robert Hicks is the video ref. He's disallowed that for that very reason. Stuart Dickens furious about that decision.
Time's still up. You've got to give them
And
time, right?
Featherstone Rovers might well be kicking themselves, Terry, because 6 to go. They could have taken their time about that.
Stuart Dickens will be absolutely devastated. Prop forwards don't get over to score many tries. But if I remember, actually, the last time Stuart Dickens played on this pitch, he did actually score.
He did, indeed, in that 30 points to 16 win for Featherstone against Lee. But he's not going to have that honour this evening. Well, not yet anyway, because that one disallowed. It's still 12-10 in favour of the Championship one side, Oldham. Coming up to half an hour gone. And Oldham have come back from 6-0 down to take that lead. And here's Craig Robinson. Robinson tackled on the halfway line. Joseph. From James Coyle to Dave Allen. Halliwell skips past the first challenge from Andy Kane, but can't do anything about the next. That's the 5th tackle. And Coyle will put the kick over the top. That looks as though it's going to be way too strong. It is. Almost as though he went for that.
I don't know. I mean, some teams do go for that.
Well, he looked up.
I don't think.
He looked up and
I think two players
almost gauged it.
I think two players running at him quickly and about to tackle him probably meant that he hit the ball a little harder than he wanted to do. That would be my interpretation. As it is, Featherstone with a left winger who plays like a winger in the second row and centre all in one. Tom Saxton gets so heavily involved in the game.
Tackle free.
There's Tony Tonks.
Go.
Tackled by Tommy Golden, he was. Kirk cut down. Now here's Joe Hurst, and Hurst is tackled on the 40-metre line.
Let's go.
And Briggs hoists another one. Well, the last kick caused a bit of chaos and confusion at the back, but this time Ballard has time underneath that ball, and Paul Riley then will try and run it back. Riley trying to get away from the Featherstone chasers. Let's go down to the sidelines for some injury news from Ben Pro.
Problem for Featherstone Rovers, Bill, and it's Joe McLaughlin who scored the first try for Rovers this evening. Phil Clark, big raps on him earlier, but he's got a dead leg at the moment. Eyes attached to the right thigh. He's in the dugout at the moment. He should be all right for the second half.
So McLaughlin off the field, and Featherstone Rovers penalised. And Oldham will accept that. And there he is on the sidelines, Joe McLaughlin, the former Hull Academy man. Robinson now.
This is what Oldham need. They need more people pushing up into support. The Oldham players seem to be going up in ones and twos. Look, if he gets his arms free, who's he going to pass the ball to? Phil Joseph's in the picture, but there's no one pushing up into that next hole, taking the pressure off. Trying to take away from the defender so he can get a one-on-one with somebody.
He's one of last year's cup-winning side, Paul Heighton. Won it in the colours of the Salford City Reds. Plays that ball. Roden, Riley, Halliwell did the wise thing then, just checked so that he wasn't guilty of obstruction, and then sees the offload from Riley. Phil Joseph now. Joseph, little kick. Ballard will chase it. It'll just be too strong for Ballard, and Hardman was across to cover it anyway.
Well, we've seen the blistering pace of Andy Ballard and how dangerous he can be. I think that's what Joseph's going for. But Usain Bolt wouldn't have made that before the line. It's a dangerous option for Oldham, though. They know that Joseph's right foot kick down the short side, the one close to the cameras, is one that Saxton and his teammates need to be wary of.
Of course, these two contested a significant game just a couple of years ago, the 2007 Second Division Grand Final at Headingley, which Featherstone won on that day. A bitter day it was for the Oldham side. Known defeat in Grand Finals in the last couple of years. Looking to get to a final this year in the Northern Rail Cup. Well, they'd love to do a double in actual fact. Well, no, they'd like to win automatic promotion from Championship 1. They certainly are an ambitious club. So too are Featherstone Rovers. Kane just steps outside the 40 to put that kick in.
Do you know, in the game, there's not many questions being asked of the left defence, the right-hand side, in the middle. Both teams seem to be playing with width. They're looking to throw the ball around. Maybe in these conditions, you want to stick in one channel, target the same guys, especially the big lads in the middle of the park, kick the ball behind them, make them return back, try and bring the ball back out. Again, looking to play with width before we've gone forward. On the third tackle, made 28 metres, but again, coming out of their own territory.
Coyle, Roberts is back on for Oldham, had a breather. And still managing to get the ball away to Coyle. Coyle taking him on himself. He's tackled by Andy Kirk. 3 in the tackle for Featherstone Rovers.
Come on, Stu, make it 10. It's all right.
But Oldham certainly, with their tails up now, slenderest of leads, but when you think how really cautious they were at the start of this game, this is a much different side on the last, and they've lost the plot there. Coyle caught in two minds and not able to get the kick away, and Featherstone Rovers quickly play the ball. Joe Hurst to his feet on the 40 metres line. Hardman now. Here is Tom Saxton. Again, spinning away well, Tom Saxton, and then looking for a gap in the Oldham defence. And just a bit more urgency from Featherstone Rovers in this set of 6. Back in field to Jamie Field. And they do get the penalty that the Featherstone Rovers supporters have been urging Gareth Hewer to award their side.
Well, basically, Robinson's here, guilty of interference in the play of the ball. One of the most common penalties in rugby league. James Collins put his teammates under massive pressure when he took the huge gamble not to kick the ball, running it on that last play inside his own half. Are Oldham up to this test?
Hurst then. Off the bench and into the action. Dickens denied a try. Kane. Jamie Field. Looking to go back in front before the half-time hooter sounds here at Featherstone Rovers. Dickens for Tony Tonks, and Tonks doing well to cling on to that ball under great pressure right underneath those posts. Kane loops the pass over the top. Kirk has got away, he's got it out to Steele, and that's good defence, great defence out there from Marcus St Hilaire and from Neil Roden to deny Steele on that wing. Dickens now turns and is tackled. That's the 5th tackle. Briggs now. Briggs pops the pass up for Kirk again, and once more magnificent defence from Oldham on that left-hand side, and again St Hilaire was involved, and it was once more Neil Roden in there to make the tackle.
Well, you need some organisation, but you definitely need some desperation when you have to defend your own try line. Last tackle play, Roden and St Hilaire knew that they had to stop the body, whoever it was. And now Paul Riley almost pushed back in goal here. Should have that tackle's completed. The call's held.
And it's completed just in the field of play. Roberts, it looks as though he's down. And the referee stops the clock.
And Paul Riley's pointing the finger. It's blood blowing from his nose.
I think it was John Steele who's come in and tried to push him back over the line. Paul Riley took a swing though. He wasn't happy with the tackle when they were trying to get him over that line.
So Riley has to leave the field of play. That's what Gareth Hughes is saying.
Well, these next 60 seconds when the clock restarts are going to be very tough ones for Oldham. Featherstone sense a chance of blood here. They've got their opponents trapped near the line. Can they get the ball back from them?
They've got blood already. What more do they want?
Blood on the scoreboard is more points for the Featherstone team.
Well, they're desperate to try and get back in front before half-time into the last 4 minutes of this first half. Oldham holding on to this lead at the moment. Robinson. Good run from him. 4 tackles gone. Now then, Coyle again, just delaying. Looked as though he was going to go for an early kick there. Joseph it is who puts the kick in, and Hardman brings it back for Featherstone Rovers.
Well, I think Oldham have done remarkably well there from their own try line. Here's the incident where bang, oh, in the nose. Paul Riley felt it instantly. John Steele's turn now to carry it up to the halfway line. 3 minutes to half-time. Featherstone have been in the ascendancy for at least the last 10 or 15 minutes, physically dominating their opponents. Now with a penalty here for a lazy high tackle from Neil Roden. Bit of an arm slap. In fact, offside he said, but I think you could have got him for either one of those offences.
Paul Riley still in need of treatment on that nose. It must have been a belt, that.
Oh, he didn't like that.
Meanwhile, Featherstone Rovers with a great opportunity as the first half draws to a close to get over the whitewash. Dickens plays the ball. Here is Tony Tonks, and Tonks will take him on again, and he's even closer this time. He's held up over the line.
Held up.
And they'll bring it back and play the ball.
Good defence by Oldham, that. 3 players in, trying to turn big Tony Tonks over.
Back on the 10 metres line, they play the ball. Kane, Hockey, and Hockey has found a way through again, but they've found a way to the touchline. Hockey got the ball in field, and somehow I think it was David Allen got on the end of it. And Oldham survived that.
Well, they do survive, but I'm really impressed with Featherstone here, giving everything possible. They sense a half-time hooter, but they also sense a chance to score and take the lead. Hockey goes for the line. Look at that one-handed flick. He's still in the field of play. His feet and on or over the touchline. And ultimately, Oldham through Dave Allen are pushed back behind his own try line. Goal line dropout, what, 90 seconds or so till the half-time hooter? That should give Featherstone 6 good plays.
Field is underneath that one and gives it to Tonks, and Tonks winds it up and drives it back at the Oldham defence. Tonks plays the ball. Here is Tom Hockey.
Second, move! Let's go.
Hockey plays that ball, and Lee, Dickens, Kane, Briggs, his Hardman joining in the attack.
Tackle 3.
And they really are pressing in the closing moments of this first half. Featherstone Rovers, they have been virtually for the last 15 minutes. The ball with Dickens again. Oldham withstanding the pressure. They've managed to withstand it for the last 2 assaults on their line. Can they do it for a third time? Little kick in from Kane, and they have done.
Well, is it Danny Halliwell who saves the ball?
It's Paul Heighton underneath that.
It is Paul Heighton. I thought it was the number 3. It's number 8, Paul Heighton. Great turn and catch. You know, Oldham have used their second man plays a lot, putting the ball behind one runner to an option behind. tend to see as well in rugby league, the runaround's coming back in fashion because it makes the defenders actually stop while the runaround takes place. And if you can get defenders to stop and then you continue to move, automatically you have an advantage. I think we'll start to see more of that in this league and in Super League.
Robinson now. So Oldham heading for the interval. As the hooter sounds in the lead here, the ball is belted downfield by Roden. Hardman will run it back, and Featherstone conjures something up here. No, because Hardman will take the tackle, and the Oldham supporters on that far side of the ground rise to their feet to salute their side, who've come back from a pretty shaky start, 6-0 down after 7 minutes of the game.